All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today for this webinar on CIMCO solutions. We are really excited about this one. It's going to be full of really just practical information that's going to be very helpful for you when as you're having conversations about just finishing up Q4 strong and going into next year. So my name is Joy. I am part of the team here at NexGenCAM, and I am joined today with Ryan Mermal and Chad Burley from CIMCO, as well as Phil Brown from our technical team here at NexGen. And before I pass things over to them, just very quickly, just kind of who are we? So NexGenCAM, NexGen Solutions, you're going to hear us refer to ourselves as both because we are. We started out as NexGenCAM, focusing kind of on the CAM side of things with manufacturing. And then due to customer demand, and just as we have grown, we have now expanded to be more all-encompassing of NexGen Solutions. So we have, solutions for design and manufacturing from cradle to grave. Just quickly to just kind of brag about ourselves. So we are an Autodesk partner as well as a CIMCO partner. And I have been the #1 CAM partner with Autodesk the last 7 years. We're also a gold partner and an authorized training center. And one that we're very excited about is this year we were awarded a platinum award as their #1 service provider or service partner. And so we are excited by that, plan to keep our throne and maintain that designation. It actually was awarded to us by our customers. They filled out surveys and that's how we won. So we're very thankful for that. So lots of training opportunities, support services, implementation, we kind of do it all. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at sales@nexgencam.com. And we'll have more on that later, but I will pass it off now to Ryan and Chad.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joy. Let me go ahead and get started by sharing my screen here, and then we can kind of get started. So yes, as Joy was mentioning, obviously, wanted to go over the security, compliance, and just different ways on how we can certainly do that and handle it within CIMCO software, of course. So before getting in, just wanted to kind of give a broad overview as far as who we are and maybe some of the different products and methods of what we have within CIMCO software. And so to get started, here's kind of a broad overview. A lot of our clients know us from maybe just the standalone editor that may be included as part of some of the CIM products or just used by itself. Along with that, then of course we can naturally take that editor and backplotting of certain code, bring it into maybe like machine simulation, be able to securely send to and from the CNC machines, whether it's older stuff that maybe would be RS-232, obviously the newer, via Ethernet. Otherwise, then we get into the document and data management side of things, which we kind of have two different methods for. This one today, we're specifically going to be focusing on our MDM product, and I'll show you a little bit more why there. And then, of course, our MDC Max side of things too, in order to collect that data, accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and first get started by opening up our MDC Max client here and kind of give you an overview as far as what it is and some of the workflow associated to it, and actually kind of take that all the way through the process. Initially, I'm going to start off here. We'll open up the software. We'll take a look at how we have the level structure and everything set, explain different things as far as users and user groups, and of course, some of the functionality, of course. And then what does that look like as far as checking out files, maybe bringing into our editor and machine simulation. I've actually kind of built out a demo here today using one of the Fusion 360, template parts or sample parts. So, be able to bring that into like our simulation module, send it to the machine, and then of course, grab all of that information and collect data based on it to see, different things based on the machine. So with the MDM product itself, we're going to go ahead and be able to store really the whole vertical stream of the manufacturing data processes there. So anything from basically the CAD file to the CAM file to the inspection results, the entire process is something that can be held all within the CIMCO MDM suite. And so you'll see when I logged in here quick, the first thing it's going to be asking me for is, who am I actually going to be logging in with? Now, as you can see, I just have a couple different options here. But what this is going to allow you to do is for you to set up different user groups and associate different users as part of those groups. And of course, those different groups are going to have different permissions based on the different levels of how our structure is set up, whether they can view, whether they can write or override, check in and out files. That's all different things that is going to be structured within kind of the background of the settings, of course. And we can definitely dive into that a little bit here as we go on. For instance, I'm just going to go ahead and get logged in as my administrator and get opened up into the software itself. You can see the very first thing it's opening me up with is kind of our internal messaging system, mentioning, hey, we have a file that was brought back in from the CNC machine. It's on my what we call import queue. I'll get to that here in just a second and what that import queue is specifically doing, as far as it goes. But I'm just going to go ahead and close that out for the time being. The way that MDM is structured is once we get logged in, we're going to go ahead and show you the relevant permissions and fields that you would be able to use within the software itself. And so with this, I do have a particular job put in here. We'll first go through how the job is and then maybe even go back through and recreate how that structure is. Everything with MDM is based on levels. And so those levels are completely customizable depending on the customer. Some customers, if they're more or less a job shop, maybe they want to start their top level off as like a customer, then jump down to the next level as far as like a part number, then maybe revision, operation, machine group, whatever that may be. Versus if you're an OEM, you're creating your own product, whatever it may be, generally you're going to be your own customer. So, you'd be able to maybe start off with like a part number at that case instead. So again, different ways to structure the levels all in the background to go ahead and appease to each specific company's needs and wants based on that. So as you can see with my particular, I'm starting off with a part number, then I'm jumping down with a revision letter, and then of course jumping into a machine group, along with then my CAD and my CAM files under here as well. Again, this is just how I'm kind of structuring this one in particular. You can see that underneath the machine group itself, I do have some associated files underneath that, whether it be maybe like some fixturing files or a model of the actual part, maybe in a fixture. In addition to then actually my G-code NC file, you can see by clicking on it, I do get a preview here, along with maybe some additional stuff underneath it, such as maybe a setup sheet that were to get generated, out of the CAM system and be able to be brought in here. And so that way it allows everything from an operator or a setup person or a programmer standpoint, whoever it may be in that chain, all the data is right here at their fingertips. They're not having to, flip through different pieces of paper, worrying about, oh, I left one at the machine or I lost one here, or it's coolant stained. Things like that. Everything is all within the database and accessible from a number of different client computers. Again, based on the user and the role that they're going to be logging in as with it. Again, we're trying to especially Industry 4.0, get the information documented in some type of repository, and then allows the setup personnel, the programmers, the operators, whoever it may be able to then get that information, and not have to look at something and have a bunch of questions and then go to the programmer who's already busy, or maybe he's left or on vacation. Everything can be stored, right within here, in a logical sense. So with that being the case, this is in start, the part number that we would have. With that being said, obviously I see a preview here. We certainly have a log as far as it as well. So it tells you, who the user was, at what date and time. We can put in different comments as far as maybe what was changed as far as it goes, when it was checked out, when it was, checked back in. And of course, with that, that, we keep those revisions. So that way you can go ahead and get back to, an older one if ever needed. But that way we have, again, one main part file. This is the, approved one at the time being. Getting in with more or less, security compliance and different standards there. A lot of companies will end up having just like one, program on the CNC machine at a time, and that's the approved program. And again, with all the traceability and documents here within the software, you can kind of get a full picture, as far as what that looked like when it was sent to the machine, when it was uploaded, why it was uploaded, and the full traceability, behind that, of course. With that being said, if I wanted to take a look at that file, I could certainly do a file open here. That's going to go ahead and bring me into my my CIMCO editor, for instance. So if I go ahead and bring that over on my other screen, the one other thing I wanted to mention real quick too is when I went in there and opened that file, you can see there's a red dot here, and that's going to indicate that I've checked out that particular part file. And with that being, then it's going to actually kind of copy a temporary file to your location, but it's not going to allow any other users to open up that file because I'm the one that has it open. Once I go ahead and check that in, then of course it would allow others to access that file and do what they need. That way we're always ensured we're using the latest revision, we're not overlapping off of one another, so on and so forth. So by opening up that with my editor, a lot of you may already be using, CIMCO editor here or there. A natural workflow, of course, was, maybe we programmed it within, Autodesk products such as, Inventor or, Fusion 360. We do have different integrations into those products as far as pushing over setup sheets and tool lists and kind of making them live dynamic, to the CAM system. That way you don't have to necessarily do things twice. With that, then again, maybe you post it out into the editor. In this particular case, if I'm getting ready to set up or run this job, maybe I'd want to go in. If there's any edits or tweaks needed, I can certainly do it. Renumbering of something, but maybe more importantly, maybe I want to bring it into our back plotter, do a back plot and or machine simulation of the actual code file itself, see, if there's anything before loading it up on the machine. Now, in this particular one, I do kind of have a purposeful collision being showed. And the only reason being is because I actually, when I loaded it up, I removed out a base plate that was in the sample file. That way, again, we can kind of see how that would look specifically. So if I do bring it into my machine simulation module, which is an add-on for the editor, you can see this one's going to be on a Haas UMC 750. Now, to make things a little bit more clear, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the actual machine housing and just see the important pieces here. Whenever that is turned off, we are still collision checking against anything else as far as the housing, travel limits, whatever it may be. It's just that, visually we can see things a little bit better and nicer now. So with that being the case, here's kind of my idea. Obviously, my platter of the machine itself, my fixturing, built up with it, my raw stock and everything as well. With that being the case, if I wanted to just do a quick simulation and a quick check, I could simply go to our simulation tab over here. You can see in the lower right, it was just doing a quick calculation, maybe spit out anything that it thinks would be an issue. The big ones are certainly going to be the collisions. And so what that looks like is if I actually click on it, you can see that it's going to bring me to that collision itself, list basically the line number that it's going to be on, and show me exactly what is going on. So as I mentioned, kind of prefaced earlier, I've removed out an extra fixture plate here, hence sucking this down closer to the table, and now, causing a collision is part of that. So obviously to fix it, I can see everything right here within the simulation before even loading it to the machine, trying to single block things through, and come to find out, when it's tilting up or coming in on the Z-axis at that point, that yes, we are in fact going to have a collision, and then you almost got to tear down your entire setup again just to put that bottom fixture plate on and get it, risen up a little bit more. So that's again, why I kind of wanted to show that here within the software itself. Outside of that, again, we could play that through as normal and kind of see exactly what's going on as far as it is concerned there. So be able to see, and simulate everything per the CAM file as it's spit out and reading off the G code. So once we have everything kind of proven out on this side of things, I'm happy with it. If we needed to make any changes, we could certainly do so within there. Go ahead and close out and maybe even check back in that file as well. If you have multiple files opened up here, we could certainly go up to some of the other options here to go ahead and see like what files are checked out, either by yourself or from an administrator standpoint. If you wanted to see who's all working on different files, you'd be able to see that kind of from a top level, overview here as well. And that also is nice because if you were to take a file, go home for the weekend and work on it, or at night, whatever it may be, there are different ways that we can go ahead and check back in a file if needed. If the user's maybe not present for a week or so because they went on vacation, whatever it may be. The other thing to note as well is again getting into certainly the compliance side of things here too. There's different things that we have capabilities of as far as our status handling and workflows within here. So right now this particular file is unlocked. It's kind of an approved state, so it's ready to be sent to a CNC machine. No reason to hold it back from anything. However, we can set up different workflows in different states here to maybe lock a file, for instance. That way, if a file is maybe sent back from a CNC machine to the database here, that's where that import queue that my message came up initially was doing. A file was sent back to the database, and it wants someone of authority, whether it's a programmer or whoever's part of those groups and those permissions, in order to check with that file. Do a file comparison within the editor, find out what the changes were that were made, and approve or reject, basically that file. Same thing can be said whenever a file comes back. We can have it automatically lock everything. That way, if a change was made, that would then prevent anyone else from downloading, that particular file. Same thing can be done, in the workflow as well. As if we added a Rev B to this, we could again basically spawn everything to lock all of Rev A. That way it's not able to be brought in any longer. So again, different ways to go ahead and do that within the software to go ahead and assist and automate kind of that workflow to make sure that we are compliant with everything. The last thing that I would then do typically is once I'm ready and make any changes, to that, of course, is we could then go ahead and send basically that file or all the files, whether it's one or sub programs, whatever it may be, send that to the machine itself and send that through our DNC software that is directly hooked up to the machine. You don't need to worry about USB sticks or anything else anymore. Again, we would support either RS-232 or Ethernet type of connections. So if there's any questions on if your machine would be compatible or if we would be able to include that as part of our system, let us know if there's questions or any of the guys at NexGen and can certainly assist with that. So with that being the case, I'm actually going to pass it over to my partner, Chad, and he's then going to kind of take it from here and review, a couple different avenues as far as sending it and some of the specifics there, in addition to then going ahead and collecting data based on that machine to find uptime, downtime, and different things there. So.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. So right now I'm showing you the DNC Max client window. This is where you would come to send your files to your machines if needed. As you can see here, I have a list of different machines going on. We're simulating, in this case, I'm simulating a bunch of serial-based machines that are communicating between each other. So I can show you some of that stuff. But for your ITAR or your ISO compliance, Ryan showed you from the MDM side how you can keep it all accurate. If you were not using MDM, and that's something they want to step into down the road, but they want to baby step into it, through the DNC, we can control where they can get their files from as well. So if I have my HMC 2000 or 204 machine selected here, and I hit the send button, I can control it that they can only get to one directory on the network. They have no idea where that directory is, but they can get there and see all their files. Now within there, you could have subdirectories that they could pick additional files from to send. But it doesn't allow you to go anywhere further than where we say you can start at. So from that point of view, you can do a simple control through DNC, the DNC Max client. Now, once you pick your machine and you hit the send button, you get put to your area where your files are, you can pick your file, and then we will give you a preview of that file. Then you simply hit the OK button, and it would send that file to your machine. For instance, this machine here, I didn't lock it down as much. So when I hit the send button, it's showing me the root folder, but I can back up and go anywhere on the network if I really wanted to. So from DNC side of things, we can do a little bit extra on there without the MDM. But the MDM gives you all that revision control and everything else. As far as transferring files, we can do it through serial or network-based machines. We support FTP, and we also have now a BK Trans, which will allow us to transfer files to an older Windows-based machine that is no longer supported by Windows itself, i.e. Windows XP, 2000, Windows 7. All those are older Windows platforms that no longer have the security backup on it. And IT groups are starting to lock that down. So it's making it hard to do network share on those machines. So our BK Trans is an internal program that we wrote that allows us to move files through that protocol onto that Windows-based control without needing to open up some more security on the network. Sending files back is a simple thing. The operators would just pick their file on the control and send it back. We're always listening for it, and then take that and move it to the appropriate location on the network. Or in the case of like what Ryan was showing, put it in the queue in MDM, and then you would be notified that that is there. Now, I'm going to move on to the monitoring side of things from DNC, and that would be our MDC Max, which allows us to look at the status of the machines and give you some reports or live screens as to where you currently are or where you were yesterday or a week ago with the performance of those machines. What I have up here is one of our more popular graphs, the timeline graph, where you can see how each machine has been performing, and then you can get an idea of each individual part. So I'm just scrolling in on this timeline here, and you can see the machine was running for 1 minute long, doing that particular program or part number, and then it had a 13-second idle time in between running the next time again for 1 minute. As you can see here, here's all 5 machines that I have in my DNC system to be monitored. This 5th one hasn't been run at all today in my simulations. If I scroll over to here, here's where they were in setup for 10 minutes, prepping the machine and getting the part loaded and everything else based on their process. Another type of report would be our downtime, like a table where we can break everything down. It's not real easy to see on my screen here, but this says shift 1. So during shift 1 so far today, this machine has been set up for 18 minutes and 10 seconds. but there's been no other downtime for that machine. So it's been running as you would expect. We have a live status screen here that will give you as it is right now in the system. So right now, all 4 of my machines would be running that are green, and then the 5th one is still idle. And then should we have any of our machines be down, like let's play with the one that's idle, I can pick through an operator panel here to say why it's down. It's down because it needed repair. So as I change that on there, this will automatically update in real time. And if I were to look at my timeline for today and zoom out, you can see down here at the bottom, it's starting to show that that machine is in down for repair downtime. What you're looking at here is what I refer to as our thick client. It's the Windows PC based software running that allows you to do your reports like these timelines and graphs, or timelines and tables. But the live status screens, your operator screens, or simple display, as I call it here, is also available to look at through a web page, which I can see out here. So it looks a little bit different, but it gives you the same functionality. So if I were to back up and look at my VMC 86, you can see it's in down for repair. And through this web page, I can control it as well as through the thick client. So now the advantage of this, you don't have to install software on the shop floor to utilize these. It's available through a web page. Now, when I say web page, that is local to the company's network. It does not get out to the internet. It's all protected and behind their security. So the only way to access this is through their network or through a VPN connection or our cloud link option that we are starting to offer out. So let's go to the display. So here's your live status display, giving you all your machines again, how they currently are. And then an additional feature through the web pages is you can look at a dashboard. I apologize for some of the values that are on here. I was playing around with my system and kind of messed it up a little bit. But you get the idea here. This could be for your utilization calculations for the day. And then here it gives you just for this machine, what it's done so far for the day. So as you can see by these numbers over here, that's where I'm having troubles at the moment, but I will fix that following this meeting. And then we can give you a list of all the different downtimes underneath that as well. Again, this would all be live based on either the day or your shift or the job that they're running. We can set that up based on the customer requirements. So with that, I don't know that I have much else to say other than it's a live reporting and give you live status of your machines, but through our thick client. And here you can do different tables and graphs and get historical data from that. This generate report is basically allowing you to create a custom list of graphs and tables from the same timeline or same time period. So you could generate one report that has a bunch of tables or graphs inside it at the same time and not have to do a bunch of individual ones. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Joy or open it up to discussion if anybody has any questions or anything.
Yes, we are recording this webinar and we will be emailing it out to everyone who registered as well as posting it on our website and YouTube. So definitely. Any other questions? Okay, well, I think then we'll just give you back the rest of your time. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Again, we recorded this, so we will be sharing that out to you, a copy in email, as well as on our website and YouTube. If you have any questions about this or things that come up after the fact, as usually happens to be the case, feel free to give us a call or send us an email at sales@nexgencam.com. Otherwise, I wanted to thank Ryan and Chad for their time today, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.